You are listening to Kaio Conversations, a podcast about anything and everything that matters to Chi Omegas.
And welcome to another episode of our podcast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Leslie Herington, CEO for Chi Omega, and we are joined today by Erin Johnson, a six-time Emmy-winning executive producer at Entertainment Tonight. Erin is an Ohio native and an initiate of Lambda chapter of Chi Omega at Washington and Lee University, where she served as GM or member educator. Shortly after her graduation in 2004, Erin began her career in television and quickly became noticed as a producer to watch. Prior to her current role, Erin served as a senior producer at ET and as the director of digital video and programming at CBS Television Distribution, where she was credited with turning Entertainment Tonight's digital platform, etonline.com, into the #1 source for online entertainment news video. Under her leadership, Entertainment Tonight remains the most watched entertainment news magazine, and Erin's work has included producing celebrity interviews, coverage of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding from London, and the expansion of ET's Comic-Con presence. Erin lives in Los Angeles, California, but she enjoys frequent trips back home to spend time with her family, including her Chi Omega sister Molly and her niece Kate. Well, Sister Erin, how lucky are we to have a real live major producer on our little podcast? Thank you for stopping by.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, you work in the business of telling entertaining stories every day, but we are most interested in your Chi Omega story. So how did you become interested in W&L, and what made you decide to join a sorority?
Well, it was kind of funny. I grew up in Ohio, so it's not a place where I was really familiar with W&L before I started looking into where I wanted to go to college. And when I was in high school, I always wanted to do diplomacy work, or so I thought, international relations. So I looked at a lot of schools in the DC area, schools that had strong political science departments, that sort of thing. And so W&L is about 2 hours away from DC. I also was a big cross country runner all through high school and wasn't quite ready to give that up. And I was recruited to run for Washington and Lee. So that's kind of how I first found out about it. And when I got my college acceptances to the DC schools and then also W&L, I went and did overnight visits, and I just fell in love with it on that visit. So that's a little bit on how I ended up there. And then also very quickly realized once I got to college that I didn't actually want to work in politics. I just really liked watching the news, and I kind of wanted to do that instead. So thankfully they had a great journalism department as well. So I ended up there. And then Greek life was pretty big at W&L. There was, a lot of sororities and fraternities, and it was something that, I when I'd gone on my overnight visit, had met several Chi Omegas who were just incredibly warm and welcoming to me during that time. So I feel like I kind of came into college already knowing which sorority I really wanted to join because of that overnight visit. We had deferred rush at W&L at the time. So I actually had the whole first semester to, experience life in Lexington, Virginia, meet a lot of people, and just really never wavered from feeling like that was going to be my home, and was really excited on bid day when I found out that it was.
Well, I'm really appreciative of Lambda doing that early recruiting with you. That was really important.
They were great.
Well, Erin, what would you say is your favorite memory from your time at Lambda?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. I can't think of my favorite college memories without somehow having them involve Kaio or one of my sisters in the process. I certainly think living in the house, both my junior and senior year, was just awesome because it was like even the littlest things were fun. All of us getting ready to go out that Friday night, or ordering Domino's pizza during finals week at 2 a.m, that sort of thing was always just, it just made it so much richer to, always have great people around.
And you have like a million times the wardrobe, right?
Oh yeah. That was also very helpful, borrowing stuff. We had a great washer. We had 2 washer and dryers. They stacked on top of each other, and people would have the drying racks outside in the hallways with all their clothes hanging on it. And I swear sometimes people would just be like, oh, that looks cute, and just borrow it and then bring it back. And you're like, where did my shirt go? But that was so much fun. and we would do, TV nights down in the TV room together, and we had our shows that we'd all watch, and it was just a really good time.
Well, I know that pizza tastes far better at 2 o'clock in the morning for some reason. It's a guilty pleasure of mine, myself. And speaking of another guilty pleasure, Entertainment Tonight has been one of mine for so long. I remember watching even as a little girl. Was it also yours growing up, or were you inspired in a different way?
100%. I mean, growing up, I just love television in general. I've always been very like pop culture obsessed. I used to tell my parents that I'd somehow figure out a way to get paid for watching TV. So I'm really excited that I've figured out how to make that happen. I grew up watching Entertainment Tonight. The show's actually older than I am. So it's really cool that, I've never lived without this show. And in fact, when I was in college, my senior year, last week of school, right before graduation, I remember our journalism professor went around the room and just asked us, you're about to, go out into the world with your degree. What do you want to eventually do with this? And I said in that room that I wanted to work at Entertainment Tonight. And
you did.
I like called my shot then, and I had no idea how I was going to do that. At that point, I had never even been to California before. But I just knew that this is what I wanted to do, and I would figure it out somehow. And it was just really very much a dream job for me. So it's not lost on me that I literally get to have my dream job.
Well, it's no doubt that you are a sister on purpose, and that you are at Entertainment Tonight very much on purpose.
100%.
And that wasn't even your first stop, though, in journalism. I mean, tell our podcasters, how did you get started, and maybe a little bit about the challenges you faced along the way?
Right. So, like I said, I'm from a really, really small town in Ohio. I have the most supportive parents in the world. They are both educators. So this is a very different world for them. And, I went to school, I studied broadcast journalism, but I didn't have any connections in Los Angeles. I just needed to get my foot in the door somewhere and start making television and producing. So my first job out of college was producing local news in Dayton, Ohio. And honestly, it was one of the best decisions that I could have ever made. I mean, Dayton, Ohio isn't quite Los Angeles, even though I love it. It's my hometown market. So it's just very different. But being 22 years old and having the opportunity to, really, have probably more responsibility than I probably should have even had at 22, and building rundowns every day and writing and working with, all different kinds of people, trying to get a show on the air every day under deadline. It was just the absolute best training ground that I could have. So I was in Dayton, Ohio for about a year. And then I got a call from a TV station in Cincinnati, ended up moving to Cincinnati, working there. And it was there that I started kind of feeling like, but my dream is to do TV in LA. My dream is to do TV in LA. Like, how am I going to get there? And started looking, and I ended up getting a job in San Diego to launch a morning show that was very pop culture, lifestyle, type of driven show. And my feeling was, this is getting me closer, and it's getting me at least in the same state as where I'm trying to be. And ended up in San Diego working there. Really loved it. Loved the kind of change of topics that I was covering, just the lifestyle stuff. You get a lot of celebrities kind of coming through San Diego, and it still wasn't my ultimate goal, obviously, but it was a start. And I decided that every Wednesday I would go to a coffee shop. I'd spend an hour doing some sort of career development, sending my resume out, doing all of that sort of thing. And honestly, that's how I got my first job in LA. I actually applied online. Someone actually reads those. They called me. I got offered what was only guaranteed for 8 weeks of a gig. And I took a leap of faith and took that 8-week gig, and thankfully have now turned it into, I've been in LA now for over a decade. So it worked out.
Well, talk about perseverance. I mean, that 1 hour at the coffee shop really paid off, right?
It did. I mean, it was a few months of that 1 hour at the coffee shop, but I think it was good for me too, because it kept me focused. And at the time, I was having a great experience living in San Diego. San Diego is one of the best cities in the country. It was so much fun. Ironically, I moved to San Diego. I knew one person when I moved there, and he introduced me to a woman who we actually became roommates. And then he invited me to a brunch on my first weekend there. And at the brunch was Chi Omega from Roanoke College. And next to
Really?
her was a Chi Omega from Nebraska. And next to her was a Chi Omega from Oklahoma State. And I'm like, how did this happen? Like, what? And it turned out they had all met through the Chi Omega alumni group in San
Wow.
Diego, because they had all, moved there after college, and, it's a transplant type of city. So they were looking for ways to make friends. And I was like, well, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, because it is just too coincidental that I would end up on my first weekend in my new city, sitting down with all these people that I have this immediate thing in common with. And we are still, that's my, my core group of girls that I'm still really, really close with. We just did we do a girls trip
Right.
every year. We just got back from Nashville about 3 weeks ago together. And it's just so funny to me that they all happen to be Chi Omegas too.
I love that. It's almost like there was a sign. These people are already vetted for you. You know they're good people if they're Chi Omegas. So instant friends right when you got there.
It was really the best. Like, I think sometimes just God puts you in the right spot and gives you those little signs, like it's going to work out. And it was definitely one of those moments.
Oh, I love hearing that. You have obviously from Dayton to LA worked on so many productions. What would you say is the most interesting one that you've worked on? And what are you currently watching?
So I think definitely for me, it is Entertainment Tonight. I mean, Entertainment Tonight, one of the great things about Entertainment Tonight is that we cover so many different things here. I've had, the opportunity to travel the world by working on this show. I've been to almost every continent now, except for Antarctica, which we're still trying to figure out how we do a shoot there. But, this past, like just a few weeks ago over Labor Day weekend, I was in Kenya with actress Patricia Heaton doing a shoot. And then earlier in the summer, I was in London with Kevin Costner talking about Yellowstone, which is definitely one of my favorite shows that I'm watching. We did, in addition to producing Entertainment Tonight, we also do specials for the network and for Paramount Plus. And we did a Yellowstone after show this past year. And that was so much fun to get to work on, because I'm a big Yellowstone fan. So one, I got all of the episodes early. So I got to see the entire season before it came out, which was really fun.
That
And
is
two,
not
I got
fair.
to, yeah, and I got to go and sit down and talk to all of the cast in depth. And Luke Grimes, who plays Casey, is actually from Dayton. So it was fun to, talk to him and hear about that connection. And we're roughly the same age. So that was really cool. And it's always neat when you're, genuinely a big fan of the show to then kind of get a peek behind the curtain about how it's made and what all goes into it.
That's right. Well, you've met a lot of celebrities. So my next question is twofold. Which one has surprised you the most? And now that you know the whole Yellowstone cast, do you think Beth would be a Chi Mega?
I do. I think Kelly Riley would be a Chi Omega. So
There you go.
so Beth and Kelly Riley, the actress who plays Beth, are so different. First of all, Kelly Riley is very British and very
Right.
soft-spoken and she's just so warm and friendly. I mean, she definitely surprised me when she walked in the room, because of course, like as a fan of the show, I'm like kind of intimidated, like, oh my gosh, like, is she gonna, how's this gonna be? And she was just lovely and just came in and just sat and chatted and like asked about, me and our crew, and just, was just so friendly. So I feel like Kelly would be the Chi Omega. Beth might be too busy doing other things to really put sisterhood first, but Kelly would be. And then as far as a celeb who has surprised me, I would say I'm kind of constantly surprised, honestly, when I meet celebrities, because there's always something that, like, our goal, especially in every interview we're doing, is to get, to learn something new, to find that interesting thing that you haven't heard before about maybe a celebrity that you've known for maybe even your entire life. So I feel like we're doing our job, because every time I go into an interview, I'm like, I didn't know that before. And that was really interesting. But I think my favorite moment, if I have a favorite moment, because I have a lot of them, but one of my favorite moments was right before the pandemic in 2020. I got an invite to go to the Oscars, which was definitely a huge work perk. So
Yes.
I, have this great dress, like I have a car, I have my ticket in my hand. They drive me up to like let me out at the start of the red carpet. And I get out of my car, and in the car next to me at the exact same time, Brad Pitt gets out. And I
No
am
way.
like, is this happening? And I'm at this point, it's like, I really don't get super starstruck because I'm always kind of working on deadline and, I'm thinking about like, how's the piece going to come together? But this was really, I was just there as a person to go to watch the Oscars. So I was like, this is amazing. And then you have to, kind of maneuver your way through like the car drop off area to like then actually make your way onto the carpet to walk into the Oscars. So we are just walking into the Oscars together. And it was amazing. And it was every bit of a little bit of an out of body experience. I don't know why no one thought that we were there together, but they didn't, but it was very fun all at the same time to see him. And that was the night that he ended up winning his Oscar as well. So it's just a really, really cool kind of full circle fan girl, like what is my pop culture life type of moment.
I would have to pinch myself. I've had that dream, I swear. Dream.
It was great. I hope it happens again.
I bet it will. I bet you'll have another opportunity.
Fingers crossed.
Well, Erin, your resume speaks for itself. I loved reading your bio. And I know from talking to you, even just for a few minutes, that you're extremely driven and very confident, and you must be to succeed at the level you do. So what tips do you have for our sisters to really find their confidence and kind of lean into their ultimate professional goals?
I mean, I think the first thing I would say is you definitely have to bet on yourself. And because if you're not going to bet on you, why should anyone else? And there's been, many times in my career where I've taken this step and just hoped that the staircase or the net would appear or whatever analogy you want to use with it. So, and it's also about, making sure that you're clear on what your goals are. And, I was very clear on what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in television in Los Angeles, hopefully at Entertainment Tonight, and really tried to build everything around me to kind of focus on that goal. It's like, all right, what am I doing today to get one step closer to that? And also, kind of keeping yourself a little bit in check too, of like, it's not going to happen overnight, but even some progress is progress. And then the other thing I would say is I've always tried to be valuable wherever I'm at versus trying to be successful, because I think if you're valuable to the organization that you're working with and your coworkers and you're a go-to person, then you're automatically going to be successful. Like I always say, like, I want to be hard to be replaced, because I want to be just, somebody that people look towards to, oh, I'm so glad Erin's here. Like she's going to, help make this better. So I would say focus on being valuable versus focusing on being successful.
Great advice. I think I'm going to try to be more valuable tomorrow when I get to work. Absolutely. Are there any parts of your sorority experience that you think helped give you the skills and translated well when it came to entertainment production and storytelling in general?
100%. I mean, first of all, we were, a very strong and mighty sorority at WNL. There was a lot of us. Our pledge classes were, well, probably not as big as maybe some of the SEC schools, but our pledge classes were, 30 plus. And, there's, a couple, over 100 of us in the chapter. And certainly, I was fortunate enough to have leadership roles my sophomore, junior, and senior year there. Okay. So, leading a group of women and, kind of motivating all of us to march in the same direction at times, to, organizing a bunch of things, budgets, like all of that, certainly skills that I use today. In addition to being new member educator, I was also Recruitment Chair twice, which like, how did I get this job twice? But at the same time, loved it. And, it was fun. Like it was like putting on a production. It was definitely producing in a lot of ways because, each night is a different theme. So, what is the special touches that we're going to do? Like, let's rewrite our skit this year and, adding all of that in. And then also, leading a group. Like we had deferred rush. So we spent, countless weekends, like kind of practicing for rush leading up to it. And it's about, making that experience fun at the same time so that, we all remember why this is such a great organization that we're, telling all of these freshmen that they want to be a part of. So, certainly the leadership skills that I gained from, being in Chi Omega are 100% something I lean into every day still.
I love hearing that. And I hope our recruitment chairs out there are hearing that you too could land yourself in Hollywood, ladies, for real. I
mean, it is the ultimate producing job. So give me a call when you're ready.
Well, how have your Chi Omega sisters supported you over the years? And how do you think your life would be different if you didn't join Chi Omega?
Oh, it would be not nearly as fun. I mean, the Chi Omega sisterhood for me has truly been lifelong. I have a text chain still called Chi, like it's a Chi Omega text chain with my friends from college, and we, check in with each other on there. And I mentioned, I have a whole group of girlfriends who just happen to end up being Chi Omegas as well, that I met when I was living in San Diego, that we, take a trip together with every year. My best friend in life is a Chi Omega that I met in San Diego. And they're just, I think just the way that they've supported me and encouraged me and genuinely have cheered me on in a way that has never been anything but 100% authentic. Like, I just know how much they root for me and how excited they get. Like, when I've won an Emmy, they're the first people to reach out and really celebrate that, almost in a way sometimes that I'm like, you don't have, like, it can be embarrassing almost, but like in like the nicest way possible. And they're just like salt of the earth people. And I'm just so lucky that I have such, great friendships. And we have this unique organization that has, connected us, all of these years together.
Well, we could not be more proud of you, and I'm glad that you are proud of Chi Omega. You probably have like a really funny story or a good rule to live by or another piece of advice for us that all of our Chi Omegas could benefit from. Lay it on us.
My gosh, I feel like I have so many. I'm like, my brain kind of races with like, what is that perfect funny story? And I feel like I'm just disappointing because I'm like, I don't know exactly like what the perfect thing is to say. But I feel like I look back at, like I said before, it's like every story I have somehow involves a Chi Omega sister, and it just naturally has happened that way in my life. So I think my piece of advice is, if you want to have fun stories in life, pay attention to who you're surrounding yourself with, because that's really what's going to lead. I think you end up being the sum of who you're around. So that's one of the reasons why too, I think that I've been able to be as successful as I've been fortunate to be, is that I've always been surrounded by really great people who've always lifted me up and encouraged me, and who've laughed with me, who've cried with me, and who've done, all of the things that you would hope for on having a good support system in your life. So have a good support system.
I love that. Sisters, just being present with our friends makes a huge impact, just like it did on Erin. And Erin, I've loved sharing time with you and hearing about all your accomplishments and your hard work and your stories. And you have taught me that I need to surround myself with people who give value to what we're doing, no matter what it is, and that I need to make sure that I give value to what it is that I'm doing, and that we also surround ourselves with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, when in doubt.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening today. And stay tuned for more CHIO Conversations coming your way. Also, it is our dream for CHIO Conversations to be as watched just as much as Entertainment Tonight. So if you have any suggestions on remarkable guests, please email us at chiomega@chiomega.com. And as always, keep an eye on Chi Omega's social media channels so you can be sure to join us next time. Thank you.